Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live. If you're watching this live or on replay, thanks for joining us. Um, I am going to finish off one of these ArtFoamies stamp sketches from earlier today. Let me get some little bit of space here. I've been playing around with so many different types of media. I have no room on my desk anymore, like us all. Okay, so the ArtFoamies are the larger versions of, they don't have to be larger versions, but mine happen to be because I think that's a perfect kind of application of this type of incarnation of the Stampscapes line. You can have these larger stamps like this. The larger you go in rubber stamp form, if you have a lot of surface area, they get harder to stamp out. So usually I've had to use like a magazine or cushion or something like that underneath really large stamps, again with a lot of surface area, something like the Seaside Cove Large or something of that sort. But the malleable incarnation of the ArtFoamies versions, they don't carry as much detail, but they're not too bad. But the ease of stamping this onto just, I don't know, just wider areas, but also what I discovered today was you can stamp them on really textured papers like this one right here. I can't really show it very well, but this is a really textured paper and it has like zero issues stamping out just a completely flat image on here. But in the rubber stamp form, I couldn't show it very well earlier today either. But well, okay, here we go. You see that kind of pattern in there? It's kind of like a waffle patterned paper. But you can see the ArtFoamies, because they're made of foam, they get into every little groove like this, even in a very large stamp incarnation. And it's not really applying very much pressure at all. Okay, so going big with nature. Oh, it still has some ink on there too, because it's foam, I guess, and it's absorbing that ink. It's a really fun incarnation to use on. You can use them on smaller pieces as well, like the winter ash on a quarter page piece, or I don't know, roughly like that's a quarter page right there. But it looks great like that. But for us that we've been scenic stampers for a while or something like that, and we're branching out into half page scenes, I don't know, elongated slimline types of things, or full page scenes, or going as much as double page spread with the 11 by 17s. These ArtFoamies are really fantastic incarnations to use. Okay, so that being said, let's finish off one of these. Hello, Patty. How are you today? Hello, Linda. Good to see you. Debbie. Good to see you all. I love the ArtFoamies too, Debbie. They're so much fun. I need to use these on like a linen paper or something like that sometime after I don't know if I've used them on a textured paper before, but the ease of which it handles that type of textured surface is really pretty amazing. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to finish off one of these and see how it goes. I think I'll go with this one right here. This one right here I used the ArtFoamies version of this birch tree along with the rubber version right here. But let's just go for the straight ArtFoamies incarnation here. With this one is using the sedge filler down below. And I think I used the rubber stamp version of the reeds down here. But, all the main imagery in here with the birch trees and leaves are the ArtFoamies version. All right, so I was doing this in the hybrid inks, and I thought I would like to try to use some more of those. I haven't used those in a while, but I really like them. They kind of it's almost like a creamy. I think it occurred to me that they felt to me like I was using an oil pastel before at times. When I was layering them, okay. I'm not going to do so much layering with them on this one, but I don't know, I wanted to try them. And I'm kind of not quite sure about their opacity level either. I don't think they're very opaque, but they are an incarnation of pigment ink and dye-based ink as far as I know. I asked the, the brand, ArtFoamies or the Moon of the Maker, what they're made of, and she wasn't even quite sure because I think she's asked the manufacturer for them, and I think they didn't really say, or it's like, I don't know, it's like a secret formula or I don't know, just the basic information on them as far as what they're made out of. I don't think they didn't want to say, I guess, is the main thing. Okay, now this is one of those Moonlight Duos where you can mix some of the white with your whatever color they are, but I'm just going straight with the color here, okay? Hello, Cynthia. Good to see you. All right, so let's see here. Yellow here. We're going to make this kind of a greenish yellow version of this, whatever season this is supposed to depict here. Okay, I don't know. Is this like way too bright? I don't know, let's give it a shot here. Here, I'll do it on this one first. Huh, that is really dark. This looks like it's like almost like fluorescent green, but I stamp it out there and it's more like an olive. Unless I have some of the black ink still on here from, stamping them out in black earlier. Okay, let's see. It looks pretty good. I'm going to be using this as a little bit as a vignette. See that little bit of that tinge of a white in there? I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know if you use like the people use as big as stamps on here, but see that like that? It kind of gives me pause to do that in here, but that's what you're supposed to do. And then, they just wipe off that green off of there afterwards. But because it's a paired grouping like that, I guess you don't have to worry about the green in there because that's what you're going to be mixing it with anyway. So it gives it that kind of that interesting type of imprint, I guess, with that mixed white and, I don't know, it's not really a transparent green, but some version of it. But look at this right here. It just kind of wipes off. And like I said, you don't have to really wipe it off clean because you're going to be using green in there again in the future. It's like you're going to be going and using purple on that next or something like that, or just the pure white. You don't really use these pads for that purpose. Okay, so I said I was just going to use this just for the green, but I think that looked pretty cool like that. So let me give a few of these tips of those branches a little bit of white, or I don't know, whatever variation. Let's see, let's go down a little bit lower like this. Okay, so that's hanging down a little bit lower, just for a little bit of variation. I don't want that like a straight bar of leaves just go to, straight across there without any kind of like a height variation. Okay, so it's going like this, like that. This is one of those things that you do. People don't have to consider this, and a lot of people don't. And I'm not thinking about it sometime. Maybe I am unconsciously, but your use of negative space is pretty key in terms of kind of visual harmony, or at least interest, variation. Okay, so when you're stamping things out, don't just think about the things that you're stamping, but think about the negative space that it's creating. And if you can kind of create kind of an interesting shape to your negative space too, it kind of creates this, I don't know, like I said, it's like a little bit of a greater visual harmony that's going on. People might not think about it, but I think that they detect it, and it just seems, the pieces seem a little bit more graceful as a result. All right, so those are my colors right there. I'm going to bring in the other tones. Okay, so I'm not really thinking too much about, oh, I wish those branches or leaves were a little bit brighter or something like that, because I'm just going to add that in with this anyways. So it's just kind of providing a little bit of a head start or foundation for those colors that are going to be used in those areas. I'm going to leave the background in this white because I'm going to have this white kind of mist rolling in. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, so this bottom portion right here, I'm going to use my colored pencils on it because this is on the semi-gloss cardstock. It's a really old paper of mine. I bought a pack of a ream of 11 by 17 cardstock from this company called Appleton Papers, which is no longer around. Appleton, Wisconsin. I was using it in some scene one time. I think it was in a live stream. I think someone came on that lived in Wisconsin, and they were talking about how they lived near that factory, and they were talking about how there was a, you know, like a retail factory, you know, store that you can go in there and you can buy, you know, whatever papers that they made by the ream. It'd be really interesting living right next to the factory, you know, some, you know, paper mill. Let's see here. Hello, Renee. What is that leaf foamy called? I think it's just called leaves. If you follow that link in the description, there's only one page of ArtFoamies. Whatever, Stampscapes stamps. I think she called it the same name that I call them in rubber form. And in rubber form, for me, that one's just called leaves. Let's see. Hello, Ginger. Good to see you. Christine, hello. All right. Okay, so colored pencils. I almost forgot how I do this, you know, from like a week ago after doing all the foils in the past couple days. Okay, but I'm going to start off with light tones, and it'll work darker. Okay, and this is going to be mostly the area around the tree trunks, and I think some shadows coming in will be kind of interesting on this one too. So we'll add that in there. Okay, so let's see. Okay, now, you know, your semi-gloss cardstocks are coated. All right, but they still take, they're coated and smooth. So but they still take your colored pencils pretty well. You're not going to be able to build up your colored pencils in terms of layering like you would on, you know, a matte paper or any type of paper that's got some tooth to it. But it's not bad. So I've been using it a lot with this last, I don't know, maybe a year or two or something like that. Because you get a little bit of the best of both worlds in terms of a little bit of texturing. I lost where I was right here, and I colored that inside of that birch trunk, but I'll color that as well, some other colors, so that shouldn't be a problem. But you get the color surface retention for your inks, for your liquid inks, on this type of cardstock. But you also have it where it's not so smooth and sealed off that you can't use, you know, other types of softer media like. Okay, I haven't used pastels on it, but I'd imagine you'd be able to put, you know, somewhat of an application of it on here. It might be a little bit too smooth for some of it, unless it's really soft. Or something like the colored pencils are really great on here. Graphite would work just fine too. I don't know if anyone uses graphite in stamping, but I'm sure it would work. Okay. Hello, Sue. Good to see you. Glad you like the trees here. It's, I guess this would be a summer depiction of the birch trees, right? I'm like Costco here. I'm working like 2 seasons ahead. I was at Costco, I don't know when it was. I need to quit coloring in that birch tree with my green here. But I think she was asking me, hey, are the Christmas things still out? And this was like a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago. I said, yeah, it's still out there. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit brighter in the shadows. Brighter doesn't mean lighter, okay? Brighter is like the relative intensity of something. And oftentimes, brighter tones, brighter colors are in the shadow areas because they're not getting washed out with all the light that's on it. So, like if you're out on like a foggy day or something like that, overcast day, the color saturations are usually more extreme than on a cloudless day at high noon or something like that. So what you're doing is I'm going in with my darker and brighter tones in here, and I'll leave this a little bit more lighter and dull. But you can vary it though. The biggest thing is when you're doing something like this in here, if someone was doing a lot of outline styles of coloring, they would color in this grass kind of a uniform value. They might pick out like some colored pencil that says like grass green or something that they would think would be a good grass green. I think that looks fine too. But if you want to have it a little bit more varied and kind of the illusion of light within a scene, then what you want to do is you want to vary it. So you want to have lighter areas and darker areas kind of playing off one another. You can think about it in terms of like almost like checkerboarding things. So we have it right here. It's going lighter, darker down here. But here's these shadows. It's going darker, lighter, darker, lighter, dark like that. Okay. But see up here, it's all kind of one uniform kind of horizon line. As far as that top of that grassy bluff there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vary that area like this. Okay, so we'll say that it's a little bit darker right there. Okay, like that. But then we'll leave this a little bit lighter like this. And why don't we darken it over here? Now, it could have been completely opposite. You could have had this darker over here and this lighter. But you see, you're just changing that line like that and just varying it a little bit, which you could do or not. One way is not wrong, but one way is just a little bit more varied. And, richness comes about by kind of a variation. Okay, we'll go like that. I think I colored in there a little like that, but... And then just do it. And if it doesn't look good, you can always change it. You can't really make it lighter, though. Unless there's like a colored pencil eraser. I don't know if you use like that Gamasol, if it removes it or something. I guess you could. But, who wants to do that? Okay, but see that right there? We're going a little bit darker. That's a little bit lighter. Here, I'll do that. I'll change the contrast slightly more. Like that. If something's a little bit darker, I made that a little bit too dark, then what you just do is you make these areas darker, and that area right there will seem lighter by contrast. Let's see, does it make a difference which colored pencils to use? I guess softer pencils, Sue, would be easier on a smoother surface because, the softer the colored pencil, the more types of surfaces you can use them on. So I like using the colored pencils on top of Brilliance ink that's been applied to the printable vinyl sticker paper, okay? But some of my pencils are a little bit too hard out of the same Prismacolor pack, okay? Not too many of them, but there's one or two colors that just, I don't know, it seems like the chemistry of it is a little bit harder, okay? And those ones don't apply to it because the sticker paper is, it's like a smooth paper, but where I use the Brilliance ink on it, it kind of creates a little bit of a, a textured surface for the colored pencils to grab onto. See this right here, it's going dark, and this whole area is light like that, but I don't have a tree up here where it's going to be casting shadows, so you just, here, I'm just going to split this in two right here, like this, okay? Like this area, so it goes like this. It goes darker, lighter, a little bit darker, lighter, like that. So if you have kind of a big area that's all kind of uniform in terms of value, and value means light and dark, then just, I don't know, my thing is I just split it in half like that. So again, just a little bit more visual richness in terms of the value scale. Okay. All right. Yeah, this green right here, I think it's, yeah, this one's probably actually a little bit lighter than that previous one. I'll use black on here too in these areas, so this green will be a little bit of a foundation in some areas for black. You usually want to kind of finish off your coloring of whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be a lot of it, but go with like a color as dark as the darkest colors of your piece. And it's usually that we're stamping at our objects in black ink. So it's a good way to finish it off, even if you're using your black coloring, whatever it is, dye-based inks or colored pencils or something like that. Just with a light shade of black, a lighter version of it. It could be a 5% gray, like that, okay? Let's see. I'm going to stamp the tall trees in white paint onto brown. I just got some brown craft paper, not bags, but I just got that, like a pack of that craft, looking color of paper that I really like the look of. That craft paper, and someone, I don't know if she's still doing it, but someone that used to do things like wedding invitation. Here, I'll use this black right now. And she would sell them on Etsy. But she used one of the Stampscapes stamps on one of them. She asked if she could, and I was fine with it. But I really liked it. She was using the 3 bare trees stamp, and it was on craft paper. And then she did that kind of white splatter painting on, and then I think she did calligraphy onto those wedding invitation. It was wedding invitation, like handmade wedding invitations that she did. So anytime for for several years in there, anytime I would get an order for one stamp, and it was the craft paper looking cardstock, I knew I knew what I was what was happening. Someone saw the piece on Etsy, and they went and bought the stamp to probably make their own cards or invitations or something like that. Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned the craft paper there, Debbie, because I just got that pack. I haven't even opened it yet. Okay, so see this black is going in there, but see those shadows in there? See, finishing it off with the black there, now it relates to the the impressions a little bit more, even though it's not using a real solid version of black like that. Okay. Okay, it looks like the tree's covered in snow. What? Did you say what ink you were going to use? Oh, in white paint. So how do you do that? Do you brayer some white paint onto like a glass or something like that and then put your stamp into the paint? How do you get like a nice flat? Or do you paint directly onto the stamp or something like that and transfer it? Or I just say, I'm going to stamp a tall tree. I heard the story of how you teamed up with the Foamies. Oh, the Foamies? Well, I've known Kristen. She goes by KP. I met her at some point in time. I don't know, it was probably like back in the 90s, I'm guessing. And I think she and her mom had that store, Effie Glitzfingers, okay, in Missouri. I think they carried Stampscapes at some point in time, okay. So, you know, I mean, yeah, we knew each other. I don't know. I don't know if I ever spoke with her, more than like once or twice. I don't know. I don't know if used to see her at conventions or something like that. Some conventions, but I don't know. I can't remember where I met her though. It was probably at some convention or something like that out in California at one point in time, because that's where a lot of that's where a lot of the conventions were before you started seeing conventions really popping up everywhere. But anyways, she had asked. She had acquired the ArtFoamies. Okay, this is what this is what I'm thinking about for the birch trunks right here. You think of blue? What the heck, But I thought I would just add that kind of cool tinge on the bark somewhere, not in that full incarnation, but just a little bit of a cool tone to go into these otherwise warm tones in here. But that's just it. I think KP, I don't know how she contacted me. It was probably on Facebook. She probably dropped me a note. But yeah, I didn't know anything about the ArtFoamies, and one of the things that that I was wondering about was the the level of detail that they can depict, I guess, with this form of I guess I don't know what it is. It's laser etching or something like that, I think. And I didn't see. I couldn't see the benefit. You know what I mean? Of just going into an ArtFoamies version, just because I never used them before. Okay, so she just picked out a few different sizes, and I think around that time too, when we were talking about getting some things in production, I think that's about the time I was kind of experimenting a little bit with an 11 by 17 type of scene. I usually don't work that large, and I've done it a few times in the past. Well, not a few. I don't know. It was probably like, I don't know if it was under 5, but I thought having some of those stamps in a larger format would be really good, potentially, or in theory. And that's when that huge 9-inch tree trunk was made. And then I used that like on one of the first scenes, and it's like, oh. And how easy it's stamped out too. It's like, okay, I could see. I'm all in now, in terms of the idea of it. I'm still not seeing all of the real potential of them, I don't think. There's probably some really, really awesome potential. I don't, maybe working more on the textured styles of papers, which were always one of those issues when you're using detailed stamps, is getting your stamp to leave an impression in those lower areas, those dipped areas, the lower section of areas of like a linen or something like that, or even like envelopes. So that's what, that's why I used glossy cardstock for years. Okay, so there's some of that warmer tinge like that on those branches. Again, this is just like this is this color right here, but you're using it like that, just to get that lighter incarnation on there. Okay, but let's add in some cool tones in here too. I think I'm picking up some of that ink from yeah, I'm leaving my impressions all over the place in here. I always tell people, don't worry about that. It's like you're leaving your fingerprint everywhere. It says that it's handmade, right? Okay, so I'm adding this kind of right next to that warmer tinge. I'm not adding it all the way down it, but we'll kind of oscillate a little bit of, I don't know, this blue gray. I don't know if I guess it is a cool color. It's almost more of a neutral in a way. It's nothing extreme. Let's see, let's give the base of these trees a little bit more visual weight though, okay? See these trees like this? It's the same value pretty much going from top to bottom like that, like even at the base. But here, let's anchor one of these a little bit more with some tone like this. See that right there? So you can see that, doesn't that tree trunk look like it looks like it has a little bit more visual weight, and it's going into the ground more like that, I think. And one of those things that they do in like movies or something like that, if you look at people's faces in the dark, there's usually like a red light on one side of their face and like a blue light on the other. And that's to give a two-dimensional type of depiction of something, a little bit more roundness, I mean, I don't do that in stamping too much, but we can do it here a little bit, where you're going a little bit cool on one side, and then you're going a little bit warm on the other, or I don't know, you're just kind of oscillating them a little bit more. Let's go with the base here a little bit more in darkness. Okay, so you see that little bit of a grayish tinge on some of those. Chances are, I mean, up in this like canopy of leaves, the trunks would be a little bit darker as it's going up there too, but that would be cool to go from a little bit dark, light, dark like that, okay? So let's bring in some of this blue here and see how that looks. And it's not that I want blue branches or anything like that, but it's just kind of bringing in a little bit more of a temperature variation. You can try like a violet would be kind of cool with this green. Again, now one of the things about these trees now that I'm looking at too, which is, I don't know, I wouldn't call it problematic or anything like that, but they're all kind of the same value here. So let's darken up some of these. Which I was telling Linda when it came to the 3-stamp challenge one, when was that? Like 2 weeks ago or something like that. On that 11 by 17, I really modeled my rocks and everything like that reasonably well in each one of those, what was it? The Rocks and Leaves stamp or something like that? Or Pines and Rocks, I think. And it kind of killed me to just go in there and, like an object is reasonably well colored and modeled or something like that. But on the overall, it's just too kind of similar to everything else that's going on. So you have to just kind of like wipe out all that, that modeling of form, just in the name of You know, adding a little bit more variety to the overall scene. So let's do that right here. Let's make this one a little bit darker and just, you know, we'll kind of eradicate in some ways a little bit of our coloring. So see, here's a little bit more. It's a little bit more in shadow. And see this light area right here? Yeah, I'm going to get rid of that. See, it kind of kills me to get rid of that right there. Because I like modeled forms looking kind of three-dimensional, but now it's not the same as these other ones right here, so it kind of separates it a little bit. I have Prismacolor and Faber-Castell. It has more of a wax base. Oh, okay. That's interesting. The grasses look so good with all your color variation and blending. I just pick out a bunch of colors and yeah, I just kind of work them from light to dark like that. And one of the things that I'm doing down here in this grass is I'm also bringing in some of that blue down into here. So the colors that I'm using in here, I also like to use in that grassy area. Actually, I'm not sure if I use this brown down here. But it does create that relationship between these objects around here and the surface like that. It might not read as just straight brown, but it makes that grassy area a little bit more earthy looking like that. Okay, let's see here. Let's change. Let's push this trunk right here. Let's pull that apart from this one a little bit. So let's darken this one a little bit like so. Who knows, maybe this one's casting a shadow on that one. I don't know. Something like that. So see, that kind of pulls this one out from the background a little bit by darkening in that background one too. And see this down here. These ArtFoamies have a fairly, you know, they're big stamps, so they have a fairly thick outline. So I'll use a little bit more of this at the base, like so. Like that. Let's darken this one too, or should I? Let's here. My inclination is to do this one a little bit darker, like that. But then that would be, these trees would be light. So I'm gonna go with the darker one right here, so it goes light, dark, light like that. Okay, have a bit more of that grayish tinge. Okay, a little bit more in the canopy. And I think that should do it like that. See, I don't know. You see how that darkening, that it just changed the spirit of this a little bit more, I think. Let's go. I'm looking at this right here. This could use a little more tone down here, I think. I'm getting a little more gutsy here as I go with this colored pencil. I start off a little bit more conservative, like that. Okay, there we go, like that. So I think it's sitting in the grass a little bit more. Here, let's make it sit in the grass a lot more, though. Okay, how's that look? All right, so birches. We still have our opaque touches to add in here too, so we'll try that with the paint pens. And then I have my white, you know, for that birch white in there too. And this, if needed. Hello, Linden, Nebraska. Good to see ya. I hope I can replay this live. Yeah, any of these lives you can replay. So, yeah, watch it like 10 times at least. Hello, Bonnie. Linda, watch it while you're watching. Have two screens up for that, you know, that football game and Stampscapes live. Turn down the football game though, and crank up the, you know, the stamping video. You know, instead of the Huskers one. Okay, so let's see here. Let's bring in some of the. Let me see what other colors they have here. I use those two here. I think this one's a little bit too dark here for me on this one. Let's try these ones right here. Okay, so I'm going to try to bring in a little bit more shimmer into some of these light leaves in here, okay? And, oh yeah, ArtFoamies has those. What are they called again? She gave me some of those. And I didn't play around with those too much, but they look pretty cool in terms of the application of them. If we're talking about the same ones, those strips, right, Debbie? Yeah, I agree, Sue. It gives a little variation in there, huh? It could be like an older tree. It's one of those things. Before I came up with like those dead trees, the leafless pines and things like that, and started interspersing them in with the live, you know, evergreens. I don't know, things looked a certain way, but then when you added in those kind of more aged kind of elements to it, I thought it really, I don't know, it made it look more complete to me. Okay, so I'm just doing this. This is a 3mm acrylic paint pen, okay? This one here is not terribly opaque. I was using this other brand here, and they're much more, this S5 or whatever, but they dry and they really crust over. Now you can get these feeding again. These are like brand new, but you really have to. See, it's like I can't even depress that very easily. So it takes me a couple minutes to get these ones working. But they're thicker inks, okay? They're really opaque and give you a really fantastic application. But the other side of it is, you know, they dry like that, where these more watery ones, you know, they're ready to go whenever you want them, but they're not as opaque, so that's the other side of it. So if I'm going to do like an autumn explosion or something like that, and I'm going to do a bunch of scenes, I'll probably get those other ones really flowing again. And, you know, that'll be good for, I don't know, like a week or something like that, probably. I don't know, just however long they'll go without it, you know, kind of drying and kind of crusting over and sealing off the I don't know, whatever that tip, you know, that fabric tip is. All right, so see this right here? So see that yellow on there? It kind of, yeah, let's see. It kind of stands out a little bit more dimensionally. That's not going to remain that light on there. Okay, when it dries and it moves more towards transparency. Here's opaque and here's transparent down here. This is somewhere like, I would say left of center like that. And it shows up, I don't know, maybe it's up here, but then when it dries, it kind of moves like this way. So you'll be able to see those colors show through. You'll still get the texture and kind of the gist of that lighter dot, which is, you know, it's representing, you know, part of the leaf or something like that, but it doesn't stand out as much. It's good sometimes in that it kind of blends in with the background, but on the other hand, if you want it really opaque and how it looks when you apply it, it's just not going to do that. But on the other hand, these pens never clog though, so that's the other side of it. Okay, I'm putting some of this down in my meadow, so we're bringing in some of this same texture from up there down here. It doesn't really read, is it? Because I'm kind of adding it into an area that's not too much difference in terms of the value of it. I guess I could, but it's just kind of, I just want this kind of this grassy area to shimmer a little bit, or to have a little bit more dimension or texture. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of warmth coming through here now. Like I said, it's not going to stand out that much when it dries, but you know, we'll get the gist of it a little bit. It's interesting. Is anyone getting... I'm getting... With every post, it's like a double posting of it. I stamped using your ArtFoamies on the stamps. Yeah, absolutely, Debbie. We want to see that type of thing. You don't need to ask. We're asking you to post. Okay, here comes some of the white, all right? I'm going to start off with this larger one here, and then I'll use probably the 0.7 millimeter one, the extra fine right here, because I like to do a little bit of detailing into these trunks right here. You can see these trunks right here, it has the outline, right? But then what I like to do is I like to go in and eradicate some of that outline with the white paint pen on the side of the trunk facing, you know, a light source. Now I don't have like an official like moon or sun or something like that in here, but I'm just saying that the light is coming from in here just by simply shading the outsides of the trunks, you know, depending on what side of the, you know, side of the paper they're on from center, okay? So in other words, we have the shadows on the trees to the right of center, right side shaded for the most part, okay? And the trees to the left, they have their shading mostly on the left side, okay? Let me add a little bit more here. This one's right in the middle, so you can put it on either side. Okay, all right, here comes some white. And then we'll apply some white pigment ink in here and give it a nice kind of misty kind of feel to it, and we'll be done with this one. Okay, so this white right here, I'm just applying it into some of my leaves up here to give it that little bit of a shimmer. If it's reflecting light, they call that not crepuscular, but specular light. Or that's what they call it in photography, I guess. Kind of putting some of this over my lighter leaves, and it kind of pushes it into the background, I think, a little bit. All right. Oh, I'm touching it down there. That's still wet with the that yellow paint right there. I think it's because I'm putting it over the top of that waxy colored pencil, so that waxy colored pencil application down here, coloring, it's kind of sealed it off a little bit, so this paint isn't really absorbing in, you know, to the paper, and drying that way. It's probably has to dry via whatever, evaporation, more than absorption and evaporation. Okay, so anyways, here this white pen goes. I'm going to eradicate that entire line in there, but see how that varies that line a little bit? It's a little bit thicker and thinner like that. So I'm going down here and just kind of adding this a little bit on this left side like that. But see that right there? Doesn't it make that tree look a little bit more dimensional that way? You know, having that thin and thick varied a little bit. Now I'm not going to do it on this one right here because this one's all dark and there's no white on there. Okay, but this one right over here has some white on it. So I'm going in here and just kind of adding it down like that. If you completely eradicate the line, that'll be fine too. But see that right there? So I almost got rid of that line completely like that. Okay. And on this one right here, let's do it on the opposite side like this. Okay. I'm doing it from the middle as opposed to applying it on the outside of the tree trunk. I'm doing it from the middle. I'm touching right in here too. I feel like all this paint sticking to my hand right there, but you know, who cares? And on the ArtFoamies, like right around like this perimeter area right here, I got some of that paint or some of the ink on this right here. So you can see that surface area, but you know what I mean when you stamp a little of the perimeter right there. So a little bit, I got a hair right there. So some of that stamped out right there. So this is another thing that this paint pen's good for. You can just kind of almost use it like an eraser and cover up all those. There's some smudgy, you know, fingerprint. I'm printing out some of this ink right here on there, so you can also just get rid of that with some white paint like this. All right, let's get this other tree like this a little bit. All right, so hopefully, well, I'm gonna try to get some of this from the outside here. The others were from the inside, but the interior is colored in, so I'll vary it a little bit like this. We'll see if that works. I think that worked okay. I think that one right there, it's a little bit thinner on that side. Let me try to get a little bit more of it. Okay, I don't want to go down too low because I'm going into my grass area like that. But I think that is it. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what I did there. Here, I'm drawing it back in with the colored pencil, a little bit like that. All right. So anyways, there's the thicker white paint pen. Yeah, let me use that thicker paint pen. Let me add some of these little sparkly touches down here in the meadow. They could be little white wildflowers or something like that, or they could be little highlights too, or both. Okay, something like that. See that little sparkly little bit like that? It kind of brings those areas to life a little bit more. Brand of acrylic paint pens. A lot of the brands are probably the same, Patty, but mine are the, my 0.7s are the Artistro. And I don't know, it is Posca. Posca is like the name brand one, right? I'm using the, I think it's called Emoki. And I think I've been using those for about, I don't know, maybe it's been 3 years. It's with the same set. Yeah, these are these are the ones that I've been using a ton of right here. It says 2 to 3 millimeter, but I think they're all 3 millimeter. What is that on there? There's a little fly or something like that, but EMOOQI. But I don't know. I haven't used those Poscas before, but I think those ones are like the name brand ones. And then this is my the Artistro 42 set, color set is my is that set. And I'm dipping into these ones all the time. These two different sets here. Okay, let me see if I can get a little bit more detailing on here. I don't think I need to do too much though. It's like the larger one did a pretty good job on here. I don't know, maybe because it's like larger forms on here or something like that with the ArtFoamies versions. Kind of just getting a little bit of that, you know, that line on that edge a little bit more. You can go across, you know, with those birch kind of, I don't know, what do you call it? These little knots or something like that on the side. But you can kind of, you know, add a little bit of texturing like this. These are lines that kind of, as my teacher used to say, you want to do these little lines that kind of describe the form of something. So if this trunk is round, then you might hit this with this kind of rounded little arcing, you know, line of definition like that. So you can go like this with, you know, a more detailed pen. Here, let me see if I hope I can show you this. I'll put it across some of these darker areas, you know, so that it shows up a little bit more. Hopefully, as you can see, you do not have to be like terribly precise. And let me see if I can show you that here. I don't know if you can see here. Let me try to get it right in here. Okay, so lines that kind of describe the form a little bit more. You see, I came across like this, like, I don't know. There's like 3 lines right in here. There's a little bit right in here, right down in there. So it kind of breaks up that trunk a little bit. And then I put some up here, but it's, I don't know if you see it on camera because there's not as much contrast going across. But you take the pen, you're just kind of going like this. I have those forms in the tree trunks like that, showing that texturing like that. So I'm just kind of reiterating it, going like this on here too. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, so we've added all that. So let's get to the fun part. It's all pretty fun, but I really like adding in like this. I'm going to try the Moonlight White right here. The hybrid white ink. And we'll see how that goes. So this is just I'm guessing that this white right here is the one that's in all those Moonlight Duos, you know, the white component. All right, so you get it on your cotton ball right there. If it's a little bit fuzzy like that, then you want to just smash it down. I'm a little hesitant to put it right there because then it goes on the clear. I'm usually doing it on an opaque lid, but see, when you do that, it's nice and flat like that. And okay, so I'm going to vary that little ridge, that grassy ridge in the background. And then we'll have some of this light kind of coming into the scene a little bit, okay? So everything's kind of anchored down, everything's relatively crisp and shaded and things like that. But this is where you can add in the element of, it's adding an element of light into the scene because it's white. But it's really doing, what it's really doing a lot of, well, like light is a big thing, but it's really adding texture to your scene, okay? So let's add some, okay, so these leaves are up here. Let's check this out, okay? So I wanted to push those back a little bit with some little dots on it like that with white because it makes them lighter, okay? But let's add some of this back here. Like that, okay? And see that right there? Doesn't it seem like light is coming through those leaves now? And I'm not kind of just doing it in one spot like that. I'm kind of tapping it down in that lighter area right in there. And then I'm kind of going out a little bit like this. So it kind of varies that application of the light like that. So now it seems like you have light not only in the background like that, but now it's coming through the leaves like that. So I think it makes it more dimensional. See these leaves hanging down right here? I mean, I think it looks fine as is, but, you know, we'll see if it makes it look even better or richer, maybe, with a little bit of element of lightness over it. But again, it's a textural thing. Doesn't that lighting look softer to you? Where everything right in here is a little bit more of a crisp light right now as it exists, but you add that soft light to it. Okay, let's do it over here too. So I'm adding this in the white area, then I'm coming up into that. Or, you know, if this whole area is filled in, you look for kind of like an opportunity of white, you know, the white of the paper, and then you add it in there, and then you kind of you spread it out. You vary it from kind of a heavier application to a lighter application like that. But see that you have these. I always tell people, I think, to me, this textural type of depiction like this, of just adding a little bit of white pigment ink, it's an easy way to do it. I feel that it's adding in kind of a kinesthetic component into the scenes, because you have this lighting coming around here from the background, but what that depicts is, it depicts that there's something in the air that's illuminating from that light. So it's like moisture in the air or dust or something like that, because, you know, it's bouncing off those little particles in the air. So you're putting something in between us as a viewer and those objects in there, okay? And again, I think that's, you know, you're kind of dipping into another sense, you know, rather than just visual. It looks, you know, kind of a little more kinesthetic, because, you know, we're putting ourselves in that environment, in that mist, you know, that's in there. That's, I always say, I think that's why people, that's my theory on why people like sunsets or something like that, is because we're really aware of, you know, we're in something as opposed to just the absence of something. And everything's kind of connected. It's because it's, you know, it's illuminated with warm light, so we can see it more. Okay, let's add some of it down here. Look at this tree trunk right there. Just that little couple taps on there, like that. But see, I'm coming over to it from the light area and then moving into that darker area like that. And now you have this tree trunk that's sitting amongst that kind of misty, you know, element. That. It's easy to go overboard with this, which isn't a bad thing. Going overboard with stamping and stamping techniques, why not? All right, let's see that right there. Now look at that. Doesn't it look like it's all illuminated now? And see, if you made something too dark, you just, you know, you can make it lighter too. So that's why I always tell people that, you know, don't worry about that. If you're employing these types of techniques right here. I was mentioning to Linda earlier, you know, if I get something that I don't like, or if something's too light, or something's too dark or anything like that, or there's not enough contrast, I just splatter paint something over the top, or I use opacity and I make something a little bit lighter. And then if something, you know, didn't stand out as much as we want it to, okay, so it's a little bit more pushed back in the distance, then I'll add something maybe darker in the foreground or something like that, or something even lighter, so that that kind of more muted object in the background serves as more of a foundation for something else. It doesn't have to be the, you know, the thing that's standing out the strongest in the foreground. You can just push it back. So that's one of those good things about, you know, scenic stamping. If you want to add more branches in the foreground or anything like that, you can do that. You can push and pull things a little bit, you know, with a little tweaking like this. I mean, you just think about it. If you don't like something altogether, like, oh my God, you know, I stamped something back, you know, in here, or something was like in there, like a deer. Oh, I don't like it. Well, you don't have to erase it, but if you put this like fog over it, it's like you're pushing it back, 100 yards or something like that visually. So it's like really, really light, so it's not as prominent and, playing as big of a role anymore. So it becomes like a no big deal type of thing. Or maybe it looks good, much lighter than it did, much, you know, more prominently or something like that. All right, but anyways, okay, now as this ink is dry and I'm finding with the the hybrid ink, just like the other types of white pigment ink, it dries a little bit more see-through, just like those acrylic paint pens like that. So what you do is you just keep layering it, and you get it to the opacity you want. See this right down here? There's not very much variation there, so we have that whole area right there that's kind of lighter, but so I'm going to kind of squeeze this off like this, and I'm going to target a little bit more of a smaller application like that, so maybe I can get a little bit more of a varied kind of, I don't know, whatever, little area of fog in there like that. So you can just keep building it up and get it to where you want. But like I said, it's almost kind of good in some ways, that you can keep adding to it and tweaking it, in some ways. I say in some ways because these days I've done it enough where I can kind of get it to where I want it, to look in terms of light and dark like that. And I just wish, I didn't have to add any more. But when I was first kind of playing around with it, sometimes it's like, oh my God, maybe I added too much. But then, I was let off the hook because it dries more see-through and darker. So, so it was no big deal. All right, so let's take a look here. And you can add on more. You can add on more white paint pen or colored pens or something like that in here if you want to. Because sometimes you mute out the kind of the sparkle of it. Like in here, that white is no longer very sparkly because I've gone over it and muted the whole thing with a bank of fog or something like that. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, maybe a little bit more sparkle in like this area down here, I think. I'm going to send you some of this. Bill can feel the texture of the tree bark. I'm going to send you some of this tree bark right here, and you can make some tea out of it, Bill. Yeah, Linda runs the Facebook group. She actually kicked me out of it at one time, and I went on probation for a couple weeks, for bad behavior in the group. Okay, let's see here. I'm just joking, folks. All right, so adding in a little bit more texture here. So these ArtFoamies here, I'm telling you, I need to do a lot more kind of experimenting with them. I don't know if I even have. I haven't collected textured papers over the years because they weren't great for like highly detailed stamps. So I don't even know if I have like a linen or something like that, but I want to try the ArtFoamies on them because I always love like real textured types of papers when I see people using that. Watercolor paper, scenes, or something like that. But you lose some of the impressions of the rubber stamp in them because again you just can't get in the grooves, but the ArtFoamies can. So I don't know. I think it's worth experimenting with that. After seeing it, I don't know, where did it go? After seeing it on that blue one that I did earlier. That blue textured paper. All right, so anyway, I think that is it. This, I don't know. Seems like I almost finished it too fast or something like that, but I don't know, it came together pretty fast. I think, you know, something of a slightly different hue in here might be kind of interesting. Like I said, like this color scheme in here, I think like a violet or something like that against that green in there would be good. Let me do that here, you know, while we're talking about it, or while I'm talking about it. Let's put some of this, let's tweak some of this. Let's put some like this, like, you know, next to this one right here. Okay. I think we need that. I don't know if this is exactly a complementary color to that green on the color wheel. But let's see how this goes right here. Oh, okay, so here, you know, so speaking of those Artistro pens, so that's kind of like this color right here. Okay, so I'm going to put some of this down in this meadowy area here. An old tablet of fabric paper. Oh, that sounds pretty interesting. I used it once a long time ago. Got to grab that paper out, Patty. You know, it's kind of fun, you know, to dig into, you know. A lot of people know what we know what we have. Well, I don't know. Some people might, you know, might have forgot what we had, but it's kind of fun to dip into those supplies and papers, and to it's really fun when you discover something that you really like the look of with them, isn't it? Like for me, it was the like the Brilliance pigment ink. I don't know. I had my stays on for, I don't know, like 2 decades before I used it. And same with the Brilliance inks, but the Brilliance inks really opened up the doors in terms of all of these other types of papers that I'd been collecting too. All of my metallics, like the Star Dream papers and the iridescence, and those types of papers that were cheap before, but now they aren't. Yeah. All right, so there we have it. I don't know if you can see that little tinge of that purple down here. I should probably be more gutsy and go with like a more extreme version of it, but I think that'll be good for right now. Or, let me see, here's what. See, this is one of the things that's nice about these Artistro pens is you can have a kind of a full spectrum of all the pens where you don't have to make a jump from like something like really light to something that's a lot darker. Okay, but I think that little tinge of a purple in there it doesn't like completely balance it out, but it complements that green a little bit more. So, but anyways, you see that the benefits of that white pigment ink. We need to apply like more here. Okay, so that the hybrid ink, I think it's becoming a little bit more transparent when it dries, which kind of makes sense because it's wait a minute, the hybrid ink, it wouldn't be a white dye-based ink, right? There is no white dye-based ink. So I'm not sure if this one's just a straight pigment ink rather than a white hybrid ink. But this one is a little bit, it's dry and a little bit more transparent here. I'll give it a little bit of a thicker slathering like that. There we go, something like that. I'm getting a little bit bolder here, just because it dries, you know, kind of lightly. So, yeah, okay. But I think you get the, you know, the idea there with the white pigment ink. It's still maintaining up here in these kind of lighter areas. In the darker area, with whatever degree of movement it takes on the opacity scale, you know. that one, it's a little bit less apparent, unless we kind of build it up a little bit more. Where on the lighter tones like that, those lighter background leaves look still like they're coated with the white pigment ink in a much lighter application of it. So let's see. Patty's preparing to move next year. I'm sure I'll find a bunch of stuff that I can give away or donate. Huh. Don't give away that thing that you're going to say, I had some of that, but I gave it all away. I shouldn't have. There's one stamper in the Stampscapes group, but she was good. Like, she moved for years, I think, and she gave away a lot of things. And it was like, oh, should have kept that, one thing or another. But who wants Patty's? Patty's giving away that full set of Copic markers. Raise your hand if you're interested. Yeah, thanks for jumping in here, Debbie. Glad to have you. Always great to see you. Yeah, this one came about pretty fast here. So an hour. So after I stamped this out, I could have done this faster, but it's not too long of a scene like that. So I think I was just kind of modeling this area down here with the colored pencils like that for a little bit. But I don't know. It still needs some sort of little kind of focal point maybe, or I'll make something else kind of the focal point. I'll do like little, and I like shimmering something down here, flowers or something like that. I don't think I want to add like a figure in here like I often do. On one of them I put some birds in the background like that, but I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And I'll just have some sort of like floral type of thing down there, maybe. I'm not sure yet, though. I'll have to take a look at this, and take a look at it maybe tomorrow. But, okay, but anyways here. But do you guys see what, I mean, if you're using like trees like that, do you see the benefit of kind of pushing, some of these a little bit, different from one another? I liked them just modeled as is, okay? I shaded on one side and lighter on the other. I do like those when I look at them individually like this, okay? But then looking at them as a whole, if you just kind of darken like one of them, and it doesn't have to be like real dark or anything like that. But see what this one did right here? You're going from light, darker, light, these ones are kind of lighter like that. But just having like one different one in there, it just kind of breaks up the monotony of having too much of a, like in this case, like a white picket fence or something like that type of, effect from these lighter trees like that. Now these are big ones too. If they were smaller and I'm doing this on a quarter page paper, maybe it's not as prominent and monotonous if you don't do it. But on something this, half page piece of, cardstock like that, just kind of pushing these ones a little bit different amongst all of them, small sacrifice. And you can still see all the details in there. It's just a little bit, darker than the other ones. I think that helped right there. And then again, in this grassy area down here, just vary it a little bit. If you ever take it too dark and you're going to use the pigment ink in there, just use the pigment ink in there. And the white pigment ink I'm talking about. And that'll solves all of the, it solves all of my stamping woes. Those and the paint pens oftentimes, they really save pieces. But I don't even think about that anymore. Usually when I'm working on something, like all those little smudgies in there, for my handprint and everything like that, it was getting all over the place. But I mean, I still see it right there, but I just know that if I take a white paint pen or something like that, or go over it with the cotton ball with some white ink, it's it's not really going to matter. So it's just, I don't know, that's part of the process for me. I often use it on, I don't know if I use it on everything, but I use it on a lot of things. I don't use it on foils much, but on anything cardstock, it's like my secret weapon for kind of you know, scenic, whatever ails a scenic scenario in terms of techniques or something like that. Thanks, Christine. Thanks for joining in. I just look like I'm at my post about moving. I mean art stuff. Oh, okay. Hello, Verna. Good to see you. Just finishing up a ArtFoamies. Okay, so here's the ArtFoamies again. Wait, where'd they go? Oh, here they are. So these are the ArtFoamies ones right here. I do love the size. When I took a look at this one right here and this one right here, I was thinking, I don't know if that's like a large enough change in size until I saw, you know, the rubber one next to the foamy version like that. Like I said, this is a pretty large stamp right here. Okay, and I don't know, the ArtFoamies is a lot bigger. And here was the ArtFoamies Winter Ash, and here's this pretty large, you know, Winter Ash one. This is a G-size stamp right here. This is like almost like, I don't know, like 4 inches tall or something like that. Four and a half maybe, something like that. But I don't know. Foam stamps, you know. In a way, I feel like, you know, like I'm a kid using these foam stamps, but I don't know. That's a good thing, I guess, you know. They're working with those foam stamps like that. They're big and fun. Keep those Stampscape stuff, Patty. Never get rid of those. Because you're using them all day, right? Every day. Oh, Jeannie just got home. ArtFoamies birch trees, Jeannie. So so these are the three. So these are the three foamies right here, and I just contacted KP. I don't know, like I don't know, a couple hours ago on or whenever I did that video from earlier today. So I said, hey, it's a go on these birch trees right here. I love them, you know, with the stamp sketches that I did. So quick stuff. It's interesting that you can do like a quick half-page, you know, composition like that. You know, not coloring it, but you know, it really fills in very, very quickly like that. And like I said, you can get extra dimension if you have the other trees. You can put them off in the distance like that. So I haven't done a full page scene yet, but I don't know. These ArtFoamies make really quick work at the half page. And of course, you know, if you're doing just one impression or two on a quarter page card with these really big stamps, it can, you know, lead to, you know, some pretty quick and dramatic results. So it was almost so fast that, you know, I felt like, I don't know, that was like too fast. I got to do something else to this one. So like on these ones, I don't know if you can see it right there. This is the one video. See all those crystals in here. This is one where I use those kind of aqua crystals on this piece right here. But I don't know, my gosh, it's like super easy doing pieces on these foil cardstocks. And so I want to try something with these birch trees like this, but I don't know if I can do that, because if I stamp it over the top of a darker paper, then everything in the middle is going to be dark, unless I'm doing it on, you know, more of a matte type of paper where I can use things like the pastel pencil to, you know, add those lighter touches to those white birch trees. Okay, so I got to figure out something, some kind of technique to do on the, I think it just started raining outside here. I need to figure out some way to do these birch trees like on a blue foil. I think as I'm mentioning that, I'm thinking I'm coming up with a process for that. So where I think we're going to stamp this out like that. And then you just take like a piece of paper like this, because they're basically almost straight lines like this. And you go like this, and then you add in with some white pigment ink or white brilliance ink, half of the birch tree like that. So it's like whiter on the light side, like maybe where a moon is over here. And I think I can just go like this. and sponge in some of that color like we did on the matte paper, but just with a pastel white pencil. I don't know, I'll give it a try because I think these would be really fun on these types of like colored foils like that. So anyway, all right. Fun with the birch trees like that. Come out with some more kind of fall-ish colors with these birch trees, and I think a lot of more experiments to come using some new, I guess, old stamps, but new incarnations of them. I don't know, they feel like they're new because they're so big in scale, you know. It opens up some new possibilities, so anyway. Okay, let's see. Kevin, I noticed you don't try and color in the sky area. I like it because it's hard to do. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so Linda's mentioning, I'm not coloring the sky here because I would have to mask these all off if I'm doing it like in a dye-based ink or something like that. Or if I'm hitting it with a colored pencil, you know, I'm coming in here like that. Yeah, maybe you can do it with the pastels or something like that in the background. And then just kind of avoid the lighter areas or go back into it with the lighter areas and highlight out the areas that you colored into the birch trees with the background color. So in other words, if I'm doing blue sky back there and some of it gets into the birch without masking, then you can just kind of go in there and get rid of that blue with your white paint pen like that. And that's a way to do it. And if I was doing that, if I was doing a blue background or, you know, partial blue sky that's transitioning down into white like that, I would probably do that blue first in there. And then I would probably hit it with some of that paint pen like that. And then I would stamp out that foreground foliage over the top of it, I think, you know, because then I wouldn't have to work around something like the leaves in there with the background blue. So I'd work from the back forward, I think, when doing this. Or my biggest, my favorite way of using these birch trees is to do it on the vellum, where you stamp them on the vellum, and then you flip that vellum over, and then you take your opaque Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White, and then you paint out those birch trees on the back of the vellum like that. And then you do whatever background you want in there. I love using photographs and things like that. Or you can do, oh, maybe that's the application, right? Have we done vellum over foil? I don't think I've adhered vellum over foil before. So you can, anyways, you can block out the back of those birch trees because you're painting the back of the vellum, but they're stamped on the front of the vellum, right? And I think we can just use a spray adhesive over the top of a colored foil like this, okay? I just use that spray adhesive, and then you just put that overlay of the vellum right over this. I don't know if it's going to be as shiny because, but I think we can still get some of those lighting effects showing through that vellum. I think the vellum is, you know, it's translucent, it's not transparent, but I think we can get, maybe you get some kind of cool effects like that. You'd get some of that reflective light showing through the vellum though. Okay, I don't know, we'll have to play around with that, but that could be a good solution for us or something like that. I don't know. We'll give it a try. Okay, so anyway, we all need something to make us feel like a kid. Yeah, foamies. So Bonnie, I always mention that when I'm doing splatter painting, it's like that's something that I think I did the last time, like in kindergarten before I started using that technique and on these cards. I think I did it once in college. My art professor hated it. He said, "Hey, if you're gonna do some sort of like a application, do it like by hand, you know. So add in like, you know, like painted dots or something like that, rather than taking like a paintbrush and just splatter painting something in there." So, anyways, but that's what we did as a kid, and that's what's fun, you know, splattering. So, you know, we splatter things with mud. Now we're splattering things with, you know, Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. All right, folks. Thanks for joining in, everyone. I had fun seeing everyone. Thanks for jumping on the lives whenever you do. Thanks for checking out the vids and replay and whatnot. If you think of anything that, you know, I should add really into any scene or should have done or whatever, or some good ideas, you know, if you can think of some good applications for these larger tree trunks, you know, put it down in the comments section or something like that if it occurs to you. Yeah. On something like this, you know, what would be kind of interesting is some lighter trees in the background, or leaves, darker ones. Then you get kind of darker in the foreground, but can we add in some lighter ones in the foreground? So it's going from light in the foreground, then it goes darker in the background, and then lighter, lighter. That would be kind of interesting. But I don't know how to do that, so I don't know. Maybe it'd have to be embossing or something like that, but it could be interesting. So stuff like that, you know, let us know. We have to dip into this communal knowledge of media and techniques and whatnot. So Patty, let us know how it works with that. What were you going to grab? You were going to dip into that that tablet, right? And check out some of that. So let us know how that goes, and we'll see. Who was it? Debbie. Debbie, you were going to post that that piece up in the Stampscapes group, right? So can't wait to see that. And that being said, hope everyone has a great rest of evening and weekend. If we don't see you on the midnight live stream tonight. I used a paint pen for glass. Oh, yeah. So Bonnie, yeah, I noticed. That's what I always mention with these paint pens, these acrylic paint pens. These acrylic paint pens, it's always advertised that you can use them on like rocks, but it always says glass in there and of course paper. But yeah, that'd be cool. You should post that somewhere, Bonnie. I want to see what you did with the paint pen on glass. I don't know. Now you got me thinking about that. Paint pen on glass, because we could stamp onto glass with the StazOn ink and then color it somehow with the acrylic paint pens. You can kind of backlight it for illumination or something like that. That would be kind of interesting. Or people are doing these luminaires too. We can do it with like a cheap clear glass or something like that too, I think. Huh. Anyway. All right. Thanks, everyone.